Greetings once again. It is great to be back with you once more as we continue our coverage of the 2026 F4 Spanish Championship season opener from the beautiful Circuito Ricardo Tormo here in Valencia. One of the most staple circuit venues on the calendar. As we get ourselves geared up, ready for another exciting battle on the course. Our beautiful safety car from Epic is getting itself ready for another course. Hopefully Pedro is not going to need to be behind the wheel of it too many times over the course of today and tomorrow. But certainly it looks the part as we get ourselves geared up for another exciting encounter. It's going to be the second race of the three so far this weekend. Vivek Canthan getting the job done in fantastic style in race one earlier on in front of Rocco Coronel and Alish Pinera. So smiles all round for the leading overall, the leading rookie, and the first podium for the Technicar youngster Alish Pinera in the first race of the season. Now we go into the second encounter. It's going to be a shorter race, 20 minutes plus one lap rather than 30 minutes plus one lap. And there's plenty more to do as the season really starts to take shape with this second race of the season. It's going to be particularly exciting to see how everybody gears up with the situation ahead of us. And we're certainly excited to see how things continue to progress with the next race on the bill. But we're definitely very excited at the prospect of another exciting encounter. The Dallara safety car is ready to turn its wheels if it's needed. But we are geared up for another exciting showcase. Dallara, of course, very insightful in the 2026 campaign for Epic Racing. As, of course, the Euro Cup 3 competition kicks off next month in flamboyant style with the new Dallara that has been designed by Toms out in Japan with the expertise of Engine 101 and Cosworth. But for the moment, it's back to business as usual this weekend for the F4 Spanish Championship. And early blood for Griffin Core. But championship contenders, Noah Montero and Andrei Petrovic, are clearly going to be in the mix as well. All of them managing to get a top 10 finish, as well as Nathan Tai. So it should be a fantastic and very intriguing run in the second battle. I think we're going to see some more excitement and badinage from the drivers heading into the next encounter out on the circuit, because we're certainly in for more drama as it kicks off here in Valencia. In the Winter Championship, if you missed it, well, it's been a very intense battle between the likes of Vivek Canthan, Rocco Coronel, Noah Montero, Andrei Petrovic and Nathan Tai, with a lot of bit part players trying to make their headway over the course of the weekend. In the three encounters that we had in Portimao, in Jarama, and of course at the season finale at Motorland Aragon. Now we get ourselves into the mix for the second part of the season, the main body of the F4 Spanish Championship. And it's certainly going to be an exciting encounter from the outset. We've obviously got some great battles to come, and it's going to be very intriguing to see how all of the drivers will fare. We're going to be in for some exciting encounters around the course. And I've got a feeling we're going to see some really exciting magic once the drivers head out onto the starting lineup. It'll be a slightly different situation for all of the contenders as we gear up for more excitement and badinage with the racing ahead of us. But with Vivek Canthan taking first blood, it's definitely going to make things particularly entertaining as we gear ourselves up for the next exciting installment in the calendar. The second race is definitely going to be a very exciting one. But now we're going to see how things will continue. So obviously it will be very exciting to see an exciting battle on the course. We've got some very tough racing ahead of us in this second race competition. In practice, it was certainly going to be very, very flamboyant from the outset to see how well the drivers would cope with the situation. But we are definitely fascinated to see what will occur in this second encounter. A shorter race, which means there's fewer opportunities for mistakes. But round one from the Circuito de la Comunidad Valenciana, Ricardo Tormo, always delivering great opportunities for some sensational racing. It's the slightly shorter configuration of the circuit that we've become commonplace with over the years. 4,500 meters in length. So it's definitely going to be an intriguing one. I'm Jake Sanson in the commentary box position. I'm joined by my colleague for this weekend, Claire Cottingham. And boy, have we got some exciting duels to come, particularly after what we saw in the earlier encounter.
Yeah, earlier on we were talking about that first race, weren't we, where they were quite calm and we saw everyone kind of tiptoeing around and and being on their best behaviour. For this one, though, I think we're going to see gloves off a little bit, and we're going to see a bit more battling up and down the grid. Such a huge grid as well of 31 cars out there going to be battling it out for the top spots, the top 3, and seeing what they can do. So let's see what's going to happen for this second race. Third race happening tomorrow, with qualifying happening in the morning. But for now, it's all eyes on this one, Jake.
Yeah, I have to say I've always really liked the F4 Spanish Championship format to have 2 separate qualifying sessions, one on one day and another on the other, because one of the dangers of having all of the qualifying sessions together, as we've seen in other feeder series categories, is that if you have a bad day in qualifying and the 2 sessions are back-to-back, that's your weekend ruined. At least with our format, you can have a second chance of a decent grid position going into race 3, and it certainly makes things a little bit more kind to the drivers who are hoping for a better showcase. What we've definitely seen already is a solid start. Only one safety car, to really cause an issue. We now know the reason why Andrej Petrovic was pegged back a little bit from the results in the first race. It was because he was handed a 5-second time penalty, so that's why he ended up dropping back to 8th position in the final reckoning. But what this all means, of course, is that heading into the race, we've got a slightly different encounter. 25 minutes plus 1 lap, shorter distance, fewer points on offer, and Aleix Pinheira starting from pole position. No wonder the team was overjoyed heading into the first race, because the pace is solid. We know he can match Rocco Coronel on 1 lap draw here, Claire, so there's a genuine opportunity for Aleix Pinheira to go for the victory.
How exciting is it to see Aleix Pinheira up there? You know, we saw him in the top 3, managing to get a podium in that first race, and then now here he is starting on pole position. He must be, you know, counting his chickens and be absolutely elated with how this is starting. Now, qualifying, of course, for this race is from their second best lap of Q1, the qualifying session that you mentioned earlier today. So it's exciting because not only did he qualify well for the first race, he's now qualified even better for the second race. And tomorrow he'll get a go again to see if he can get pole position. So it's definitely someone that maybe we didn't think was going to be up there fighting straight out of the stalls for wins and pole positions. But it shows us how many talented drivers that we have up and down this grid that potentially we're going to see them unlock something that we didn't know was there.
Speaking of unlocking things that we don't know are there, this is going to be a very different type of race for the drivers. Not only is it 5 minutes shorter, but the track temperature is 7 degrees higher than it was for the race earlier on. It's slightly later in the day, so the air temperatures have elevated. The wind speed is only about 15 kilometers an hour, but that means that there could be 1 or 2 corners on the circuit where we could see a bit of an issue trying to get the front of the car turned in. Drivers have been talking to me about how flamboyant the front end of the car can get when it's a little bit loose, and certainly in slightly windier conditions there could well be a little bit of a headache for that, which we just see the epic Dallara safety car heading out onto the course. It is absolutely stunning and really amazing machinery, great engineering from Dallara. We're going to be saying that a lot in 2026 when we get to the Euro Cup 3 season, of course. But the slightly higher temperatures, Claire, are always going to make for an interesting scenario. Let's not forget these guys are 15, 16, 17 years of age, still getting to know what it's like behind the wheel of a racing car. And these higher temperatures are definitely going to be a big test.
There you go. The graphic showing us there, air temperature of 22, track temperature 36, humidity is quite high as well. Probability of rain 10%, and the wind speed at the moment of 15. Now, as you can see, the trees aren't moving a lot, so it shouldn't be too bad, but it does feel like maybe that they could find some issues with this wind. The air temperature being quite a lot warmer than before, and we were seeing, Jake, in that first race that actually a lot of the drivers were struggling with their tyres. So are the hotter conditions or the warmer conditions and the track temperature rising going to see more overtakes, see more heat in those tyres and see a bit more of a racy race out there?
I certainly think we could see a few more mistakes and unforced errors, as they refer to in football, but it's definitely going to be a tricky one for the drivers, because even though the race is shorter, so technically the tyres don't have to go quite so far, that elevated track temperature by 7 degrees will make a massive difference in feel to the drivers. Now, I'm not a racing driver, but I did spend a good 2 or 3 days on my simulator at home trying to replicate the conditions these drivers are going to be in, and you can actually on certain simulators replicate track temperatures. You can change and elevate to understand the difference. That's Raoul Hyman, I believe, in the stands there. Great talented British driver, former Super Formula driver and Indian Racing League race winner. Good to see him in the paddock helping drivers out. But from what I could gather in terms of the feel of the cars in the slightly higher temperatures, it actually wears the tyres faster, so they'll be grateful for 5 minutes less. But will there be a little bit more wear to consider? Is the rate of the tyre degradation going to be faster, even with a 25-minute deficit? Will the tyres be weaker by the end of the race? That's what the driver has to take into consideration. All of the mechanics will be crunching the numbers and crunching the data. In the paddock, these guys are absolutely intense when it comes to post-session. It'll be fascinating. Down in the pits, though, Alex Garcia is the one who has all of the updates and all of the gossip. So let's go to our colleague. Alex, slightly higher temperatures, but I guess slightly higher focus for the drivers. Now they know what's ahead of them.
Exactly, Jake. They have that experience from the first race. They know what to expect. They know what the slightly cooler temperatures were like, and they know that now things are going to get a little bit hotter. We are expecting perhaps a little bit less graining compared to the first race this morning, but as you've said, I was listening in, the higher temperatures will change a little bit the feel that these drivers have for the rest of the activities today. If we looked forward, we would say that probably that's also going to be different for tomorrow, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I know I'm impatient. There's still one race to run today, 25 minutes, remember 5 minutes shorter than the one this morning. But if we don't have a safety car, which could happen, we could have basically the same amount of racing time as we had. So yes, the tires might have a little bit less running time, but we might have a very similar competitive running time, which is going to make things a little bit more similar than we are perhaps expecting. Something to consider.
Alex, just a quick
Don't worry,
one on
Alex, you and me.
Pinera.
Go for it.
I just, have you had a chat with him off the back of his third place finish there? How's he feeling ahead of being on pole position?
The whole team is actually really thrilled because they know that they have been working a lot throughout the winter. They know that there are no campus racing, there are no Griffin Core, there are no MP Motorsport KCL, but they know that they have something special. We talked about this with Jake back in the Spanish Winter Championship, and they were very, very excited about this regular season coming because they know they have a quick car, and all of the drivers have been competitive. So they could be a factor. And of course, Aleix knows that starting from pole position here in Valencia gives you a slightly better chance to win it as opposed to other races. But you know racers, they don't want to make things too clear. They don't want to make it as if they know they're going to win it. So, you know, good patience, not too confident. Let's see what happens. And he just wants to go out and race, which I think speaks volumes about what his impatience is to really go and do it.
We're seeing the legend himself, Ricardo Tormo, on the screens. It's a fantastic circuit, this one, but the drivers have found it, I'm guessing, Alex, a real challenge to get used to. It's not the easiest of race circuits for overtaking moves. It's where a smart driver can actually really find a little bit more speed and a little bit more pace over the course of a race. Are the youngsters trying to adapt to the situation amicably, or are they actually finding it a challenge from what you've gathered?
This is the usual challenge, I would say, in the circuit Ricardo Tormo. Luckily for them, at least in terms of running, they've been driving quite a bit earlier this week. They had some test days before the actual free practice that we had yesterday, which helps in terms of getting used to the track. But in terms of overtaking, dogfighting, that's only really going to come out in the actual races, right? So we had only one race this morning. We saw that they were relatively, relatively cautious in terms of fighting, but you guys were discussing this morning how the things were going to pan out for the rest of the weekend, and we know that the first one tends to be the tamest of the races, and action just keeps getting more and more exciting as the weekend goes on. So I'm expecting perhaps a bit more impatience, especially as the race is a bit shorter, and doubly so if there is a safety car. We know that any safety car makes drivers impatient, especially on those restarts. So that is definitely something that we'll be looking out for. But no, I think drivers are just getting on with the usual business in Chester, especially those who are on their second year.
Alex, you talk a little bit there about impatience in drivers. Obviously, we saw Vivek Kanthan take a win, leading the championship now quite comfortably. We've only had one race. How impatient, though, is he going to be sitting third at the moment? He's got confidence, in the car, in his own ability. Are we going to see him launch off the line and try and take the lead? Or how's that going to work heading into turn one?
I think any driver wants to get to that first place as soon and as early as possible. So of course he's going to be trying to get that, get off the grid as quickly as possible. But if there's one thing that has always been a classic staple of Vivek Kantan, has been being able to use his head and being very, very level-headed on the track. He's not one to take unnecessary risks, and if he has to settle for second place because he knows first is too risky, he's happy to do it. Or maybe not happy is the word, but he'll settle down for it if he knows that there's a bigger prize to fight for in the end. And let's not forget about that. We're talking about a Formula 4 Spanish Championship title on the line, and I'm sure that he's going to want to go for it. So I think he's not going to take unnecessary risks, as I say. But you never know. You're a driver and you see a space, you just go for it.
One of my favourite narratives of this paddock, Alex, it's already taking shape for this F4 Spanish Championship season, and it's that ever-long duel between Campos and MP. It's really starting to build already in this 2026 season as we wait for the cars to head out onto the circuit. Already this morning we've seen signs that the rivalry is going to be very strong again between these two big teams. We've obviously seen a strong performance from Vivek Kantan and Noah Montero of the Griffin Core boys. They are the satellite team of Campos, of course, and MP's Rocco Coronel. What do you make of the battle and the rivalry between these two great outfits after the first race of the season?
It's one of those things that you just love to see, because they're big squads. They know that they have all the information, all the tools, all the drivers to be fighting for those titles. But we also know that all of this is part of that big infrastructure, big family that ties them up to Eurocup 3, FIA F3, FIA F2, of course, which means that the drivers who are with them, they're not just looking at promoting to another series. They're promoting into their own teams, climbing the ranks, and that makes it very exciting for them in particular. That said, I would be lying if I said I didn't love seeing smaller teams throwing a spanner in the works. I just love seeing T-Code just there, sending that challenge to them and saying, hey, why can't we also do it? We can absolutely do it. So anytime that we see some of those teams fighting in a fighting position, that's always exciting. Maybe DriveX hasn't been too competitive this weekend. They could also be a factor in general this season. But especially very, very positively surprised with T-Code or Technicar, depending on how you know them and from when you know them. But definitely a team to look out for. Still, yes, I agree with you, Jake. Campos and the MP bigger families should be, rightfully so, the big favorites for this year, especially with some of these exciting young talents. Some on their first years, some on the second years, that have been showing that they have the speed to do it. Rocco Coronel, I think, big representative of the rookies. And on the Griffin Core campus, as you said, Vivek Kantan and Noah Montero, those veterans who want to show the young ones, they have to show a little bit of respect.
I think that's what's so exciting, though, about this, Alex, isn't there? That we've got so many rookies alongside I like the way we call them veterans, but actually the oldest on the grid, I think, is about 20. So they're not exactly old, but it's so interesting to see, isn't it? We're going to slowly see the personalities and these driving styles come out of these rookies, which we're going to see the future of motorsport on the grid.
That's also something that's quite exciting to see, Claire. You watch these drivers, and throughout 1 or 2 years, you already see them developing. You see their personalities shine on the grid, well, on and off the track, really. And you start to see what defines their way of approaching racing. Yes, you're always going to change, you're always to get better, you're always going to get more savvy. But if you're an aggressive driver or you're a very cerebral driver, you're already going to show that in Formula 4. And that's what makes it, to me at least, it makes it so fascinating, because we're getting a little of a glimpse into the drivers' heads. And for someone like me who has seen so many drivers going through the ranks, it's always fantastic.
So now we've got this build-up coming, and the drivers obviously getting used to the circuit. They're obviously on their reconnaissance laps now. They can choose to take 1 or 2. One of the things I want to pick up on after the first race was the new guys. There's obviously a handful of drivers who weren't there for the Winter Championship, so we'll pick up on that story in a little while. Meanwhile, though, Alex Garcia is down in the pits again, as we know, and he's found a very important person to talk to. Let's catch up.
Exactly, Jake. We're talking to Nicolás Collado, the general manager of the Circuito Ricardo Tormo here in Cheste. Nicolás, this is a very exciting moment as well for you guys. You've always been here with the Formula 4 Spanish Championship since the first year. and this is the 10th anniversary, 11th season, and we're still here, we're still together, and enjoying this category.
Yeah, for sure. Formula 4 is key for the development of young drivers, and in fact we have the High Performance Center in the Circuit Ricardo Tormo with our local drivers, with Aleix Piñera, Sandro Pérez, also Nacho Tuñón, and they are making a very excellent performance this weekend. And for sure, we support this category because it's 10th anniversary, but it's very important for us.
And this ties together our side of the story and your side of the story very well, because you are, of course, always supporting these young drivers. How does it feel to see one of your guys here in pole position? Who knows, maybe he could be taking that first win.
Yeah, for sure. We are very excited for this. We are very happy. It's one of our team, it's like a son of our motorsport family, and we are very glad to celebrate this good performance this weekend, and I hope tomorrow will be better.
But I know that even though that for you guys, Aleix is a bit like a son to you, I know that you look out for the whole grid and that you're happy to see these young drivers showing their talent and promoting from Spain into the world. This is maybe one of the best things that we're doing together, which is exporting talent everywhere and showing that if you want to be quick, if you want to be competitive in motorsport, you race here, not anywhere else.
Yeah, that's the point. We feel like a factory of championships. This is very important because it's not only on the track, even off the track also. So we try to make a complete development of drivers as a championship, as a sportsman, and as a person also. So it's very important for us. Yes.
Nico, thank you very much. I'm very glad to have you here. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the weekend. I know there's a lot to enjoy, and we hope that we can continue to come here to the Ricardo Tormo for many, many more years.
Thank you so much. We are going to enjoy this weekend.
Thank you very much. So as we're saying, this is definitely a young driver talent factory. And Jake, answering what you were saying, in fact, we have been talking about this with Nico. This is very much the place where you want young drivers to learn and to develop and to show that talent, which it's probably going to be exported into all sorts of professional racing categories around the world.
Well, indeed, we've already seen the talents come through the F4 Spanish Championship paddock, go on to big things. Of course, on the Formula One grid now, Franco Colapinto has made his way into Formula One through this paddock, and there are plenty of other drivers through the worlds of TCR, through sports cars, even knocking on the door of Formula One, IndyCar and Formula E, who have come through this paddock over the years and have gone on to massive things. It's so competitive. The circuits are fantastic. They teach you a lot about tyre degradation and tyre management, Alex, and that's really where the drivers can be smarter. And we've seen as they progress from here to Euro Cup 3, already with the new car in Euro Cup 3, these guys are in the fantastic carousel that will teach them how to become Grand Prix drivers.
Exactly, and this ties not just with these cars, but also with the different circuits, different really characteristics that we find, because it is very much not the same racing in Valencia as it is racing in Motorland or racing in Portimao. The twistiness, if I shall make up a word on the spot, of this circuit is entirely different from those bigger circuits, those Grade 1 FIA racetracks that have hosted or will host in the future F1 races. Of course, this also ties to all the engineering prowess that the teams have, and these drivers need to learn that. It's also about learning how to extract the best out of the car, not just from a driving perspective. And why not? We should say that. There's also a psychological component. You have to learn how to put pressure on the rival. You need to learn how to deal with the pressure when a rival is just behind your gearbox. And all of these things, small as each of them would be, make up a professional racing driver. That is why it's so exciting. When you see some of the drivers growing faster than others, or some that maybe are growing slower, and then suddenly something clicks, and they're there back again.
So just seeing pictures here, Alex, of Ty Fisher for Griffin Core. Griffin Core coming in pretty strong to this racing series this time round. And also we're just seeing, of course, Noah Montero. Now, we've spoken a lot about Noah, his teammate that we were just talking about with Ty Fisher. But what are we going to see then from Noah this time? The winter champion, and he had to settle for not being on the podium last time. Are we looking to see maybe gloves off this time from Noah?
I think he's probably one of the hungriest drivers in Formula 4 Spanish Championship, no less because he's on his second year. And as we said before, okay, maybe veterans is a bit of a strong word. Let's just call them sophomores. But those second-year drivers, they definitely want to show that they can make it, that they are the rightful heirs of the title here, and that they are prepared to jump up to Euro Cup 3 next year. So those drivers, I think they are hungrier by need. But I think in particular Noah Montero, maybe it's because racing is also in his blood. It comes from his family. Remember that his father was, of course, Thiago Montero, former Formula 1 podium finisher, TCR champion as well. So he's a driver who knows what it's like to be on the top of motorsports. And I think he's taught everything that he can to his son. And that's why we have such a hungry driver. I'm sure that he is going to be trying everything he has on this second race of the weekend.
I actually got the opportunity to have a quick chat with Thiago in between races, and he's been really baffled by just how calm and how calculated his son is. He's a bag of nerves on the sidelines, and Noah is just chilled and taking it in his stride. I've said it time and time again, and I spoke to Emerson Fittipaldi about this when Emo Jr. was in the Euro Cup 3 paddock. It's always way tougher to be a dad than it is to be a racing driver in your own campaign. But what always amazes me, Alex, is the refreshing nature that these guys, they take it in their stride. They're not just drivers who have come up from karting. They are scientists, they are analysts, they are data experts, they are calculated tyre whisperers. It is phenomenal to see just how intelligent these guys are at such a young age.
And you have to be in motorsport, because you know I hear sometimes some people who don't necessarily know much yet about motorsport. I'm sure they'll get hooked into it in no time. They think, wait, isn't motorsport just about sitting on a car and driving? No, it's not. You have to be all those things that you said, Jake. You have to understand so much technical side of physics, really, to know how to make a car quick consistently. And that's why it is so impressive to see these young drivers, young guys and girls, showing that skill. It's all about keeping your emotions in check, being smart, being skilled, and eventually enjoying a little bit of luck. Let's not forget about that, but I am always very impressed when I see all of them.
Alex, it sounds like the cars are heading out now on the starting grid we are seeing here. But just finally from you, I'm sure, because I think you've got other things to be getting on with, who are we looking out for in this race? Who do you think's going to really impress?
It's tricky to know, but I would say that just as on the first race, we were looking at Vivek Kantan as one of the big favorites because he was starting from pole position. I want to believe that Aleix Piñera can perhaps make things a bit difficult for the big established teams, and why not? Maybe he can take that win home for T-Code, which I think would be a great piece of news for the championship.
Well, guys, it's time to go focused on the business of racing. Alex, I know you have other bits and pieces to take care of with the Spanish audience, but what a great race coming up. Let's enjoy it. So, on we go with the battle royale. Aleix Piñera, pole position. Rocco Coronel, P2 on the grid from Vivek Kantan and Ty Fisher, sharing the second row. With the third of the Griffin course, Noah Montero, P5 alongside Andrei Petrovic for T-Code by Amtog. Then Jensen Burnett and Nacho Tunion, Boris Leeson and Philippe Carras. Great for the top 10 for the G4 driver. Elliot Kaczynski, the fastest of the Drivexes this time in front of Kasper Schormans. Always a worthy competitor. Then Nathan Ty, he'll be struggling there from 13th alongside the Irishman Dan Kelleher. And then Mickey Blascos from Boluet. Simon Balbarella and Louis Cochet, and then it's an all-female 10th row, Luna Flusha and Zoe Florescu, and then Jean-Paul Carras from Sebastian Frigolet, and then Jacob Mikalev from Max Radek, Paolo Recobono and Felipe Rice. And then we have Sandro Perez, one of the new faces. Great to see him stepping up into cars, along with the Finn Alfons Mittinen, Fausto Arnaldo, and Rodrigo Martinez from Alexander Chartier, Samorus, and then Jordan Moodley and Marianito lining up in 34th and last, the Portuguese driver for TC Racing. That is, of course, standing for Thibaut Courtois Racing, the goalkeeper, formerly of the Belgian national team, really enjoying life in the motorsport world. Claire, this is a tough one. All the drivers know they're going to be pushing very hard indeed in this one. Hotter track, shorter race, big opportunities to get it wrong, but they've got the overnight to fix it. So will there be a bit more of a gamble from the drivers perhaps this time?
We're going to have to see. I think they're still probably going to be still quite cautious out there. You know, the track temperature is changing slightly. Overtaking can be tricky. The qualifying is very important. Technically flowing circuit. Let's see. I'm excited.
So for Aleix Pineda, all the pressure rests on his shoulders. We get the flag ready in position at the back of the grid. When that changes to green, we'll be ready to advance again for this weekend for the F4 Spanish Championship. There's the green flag, and we're waiting for the lights to extinguish for the second time this weekend. Let's race at Valencia! Good start from Canthan, already starting to attack Rocco Coronel. Not the best of starts from Pineda. Is he going to be able to squeeze Coronel, who finds one wheel on the grass? They're going to be interlocking wheels if they're not careful. Surely Coronel will have this. He does indeed. He finds the inside line. A beautiful dance to the apex. Pineda's now going to go long in the hope that he can try and find the outside radius. Coronel will be a little bit tempted into the inside line, but this isn't his first rodeo in this car. He'll be able to have a decent run. Canthan's got a good run on Pineda as well. Can he commit to that on the left-hand side and get himself ready for the right-hander? A much cleaner start. Oh, contact! And Canthan's going to go wide with a spin. Canthan facing the oncoming traffic, and he's been hit by Andrej Petrovic, and there's more cars going in. No time for everybody to react, and that is going to be a safety car at the very minimum, possibly even a red flag, Claire.
Yeah, no, that's I would think at this point it needs to be a red flag, but we'll just see what race control says, because you've got two cars that are on the racing line, and that was such bad luck. I think it was a T-bone sort of situation for Vivek at the front, and he just spun round, and after that, unfortunately, like you say, no one had any time to react. So quite understandably, safety car is out. They will try and work out exactly how the drivers are, and it seems we've got a red flag, so that's probably the right call at this point. There is too many cars out there and too much debris on the track for it safely to carry on. So let's have a look at this replay then. He goes airborne then on the front right, actually. Getting out of shape there is Vivek Cantham, and obviously getting on to... Oh, he's lucky not to hit the gravel, actually. So by then he's just a passenger, and unfortunately tries to lock up a little bit to keep it on track. And then after that, I think you'll see him come back onto the track. So unfortunate there for Vivek Cantham, the race winner from the first race.
Massive lightning reactions from Aleix Pineda, but what you're about to see, look in the background, there's Petrovic. He's going to go wide. He'll find himself on the curb because that's where the other competitors have placed him. He can see this happening, but you've got to remember this is in super slow-mo. You've got fractions of a second to respond here, and they always tell you, go where the car is spinning because it will spit out of the way and you'll be able to keep it going. But at this point, Canthan's actually come to a stationary stop. There's nothing Petrovic can do to respond in time. And unfortunately, the Serbian is on a one-way ticket to the scene of the accident. Very unfortunate indeed. One of those very unfortunate incidents. What that means, of course, is that we've now got no Canthan and no Petrovic. And I saw as well Elliot Kaczynski pulling off in the Drivex, so he was caught up in that too. Pablo Ricabono is stopped out on the circuit. Bola Wet of TC Racing is stopped out on the circuit. So it's an absolute nightmare for the drivers. We're just making sure that the cars can now be moved. I can tell you that Vivek Canthan and Andrej Petrovic are out of their cars, Claire. So the only thing that matters is that both drivers are okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the main thing. We're seeing the marshals here just attempting to move the car, but it's got so much damage on it that it's almost difficult for them to move out. This is Vivek Cantham's car number 22, which is being moved onto the grass right now. Jake, who is the other car? Would that be Petrovic's car behind the Strucken car?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think I got spat out to the side of the road there. So That was the difficulty, and it was because they had the initial impact, but then there was another impact from behind. I think that might have been Boloet in the TC who had Ricardo alongside him, so that's why the two of them joined the scene of the accident, essentially. But, well, very difficult.
That
That is the stationary car of Boloet. Yeah, so that's Bo in the TC racing machine, the Thibaut Courtois squad. And that looks like it's got some slight damage to the right side of the car, as we see it. So, yeah, Boloet, no chance of continuing on in that one. I think we're going to see another replay angle. Let's see what happened. Oh, this is the start itself. Now, Pinheiro actually got a reasonable start, but Rocco Coronel, he was like a rocket ship. Check this out.
Ty Fisher actually had quite a bad start, and you can see he gets bogged down quite quickly, going 3 wide into turn 1.
Yeah, you've got two conflagration moments at the same time. This is what happens when two drivers are not prepared to give up the ghost. There's no chance for Petrovic to get out of it. Bang! He goes into Canthan, and you've got a split second to react behind. Bang! In goes Pablo Ricabono. Oh, that was a nightmare for him. Absolutely nowhere to go. It was Sebastian Frigoulet that tried to get out of the wash. We're going to see it from the drone. It's going to look even more terrifying from this angle. In goes one, in goes another.
Oh.
Ready, wallop. Absolutely nothing that anybody could do to get out of that. There's the initial impact again from Canthan with Petrovic going in, and his car gets spat out to the right, not by this impact, but by the next one. It's the 74, Pablo Ricabono in the GRS, that goes straight to the scene of the incident. And I really feel for Pablo Ricabono. The thing is, it's dusty, it's offline, he's got a car in front of him, and these guys are 15, 16, 17. You've got a split second to react. Fair play to everybody for getting out of it. Let's head down to the pit lane where Alex Garcia can tell us a little bit more about the reactions. So let's see how everything's going.
Yes, Jake, we're watching actually to my left. You can see them, all the cars that are lining up in the pit lane. And of course, if you watch just behind at the end of the grid, you can see that there are being some tires being changed. So a little bit of change of strategy in that sense, especially from those cars who have less things to lose at the back. But that was really painful to watch, wasn't it? That was a really, really big hit on that first lap. We did promise more action. We did promise a little bit more impatience. And the drivers have, I guess, listened to us and they delivered. Unfortunately, not as we would have liked, though.
Yeah, it's a scary one out there, but luckily to see that everyone is okay. The interesting one that I saw is Boloet, who actually misses the initial crash that's happening and manages to get away from the action, but then unfortunately hits into someone with the front right and also is out. We've seen how many drivers are out now, Alex?
I think we have 5 cars out that are not going to be restarting, at least in theory, but we'll be paying attention as well in case that there's anybody else that's either joining us in the back of the grid or someone who's dropping out, but there should be 5 less cars, so it is really unfortunate. I do want to say, however, Claire, one of the things that for me was most impressive, we know from experience that sometimes the situations lead to a lengthy safety car before the decision is taken to show the red flag. This was a very, very quick decision. And this is good, not just because of safety, but because it saves a little bit of track time for us to enjoy. So that means less time used or less time wasted, if I shall, on safety car conditions. So good, we'll have more racing time. And yes, we'll have to wait a little bit. But if we wait a little bit, but we have action in the end, I think it's all worth it.
Yeah, that's quite important. It's something that's really been reflected not just by the fans who watch along, but also from the members of the paddock. They say there's not really a lot of percentage in keeping the safety car out for lap after lap after lap to clean it up. You may as well reset things. The race director has made it very clear in the regulations that he's going to use this opportunity a bit more often to give us more race time. What, of course, this means with the absence of Canthan and Petrovic is it's not just game on for the weekend, it's game on in the championship, because we're looking at Canthan's car on the screen. We don't know how much damage that car's going to carry into qualifying tomorrow. The mechanics are going to have to work on that, but this is potentially a race weekend detriment, not just for this race, but for tomorrow as well. The mechanics are going to have to work overtime tonight, Alex, to make sure that they can get that car ready for qualifying.
I think there's 2 very important bits of work to be done now in that garage. One is, of course, to make sure that that car is in the best state it can possibly be in, let's say, 15, 16, 17 hours from now. The other one, I think, is the work that has to be done to make sure that Vivek Kantan's mind is in the best state it can be in 15, 16, 17 hours from now. Because the winner from the first race of the season needs to still keep that confidence, and it will be difficult for him not to have that blow to his confidence, knowing that he was the championship leader. He'll most likely lose that championship lead. He'll have to recover. He won't know exactly how that car is going to behave. We know that as much as these are racing cars, as much as these are machines, they are a lot more organic than it might seem from the outside. These cars are almost alive. Any blow that they receive, any part that you change, bits of temperature, anything can change the performance. So the car that you will have tomorrow, it will be, in a sense, a little bit different than the one we had today. And he'll have to relearn it and re-practice it and make sure that he can get the most out of it. And he needs that confidence to do it.
Obviously, we know that Spanish F4 is a place for drivers to learn their craft and to come up from karting and really learn what they're doing. What do you think from this situation has Alex Pinera learned from pole position and the fact he got slightly bogged down at the start? What do you think he can take away from this and put into the restart? Well,
what's clear is that now he knows how not to do it. And this is something that, as much as it sounds obvious, sometimes drivers need to learn. And he knows that he still has a chance. Having a chance is good. Knowing that you have a chance is even better, because now he has to keep himself in a state of relaxation to some degree, tense relaxation, if you will. He needs to be focused. He needs to be concentrated into the job at hand. But he also needs to not get too stressed. The race is long. There's still a lot of time. And he has a restart to do. And if that restart goes well, there's no reason he cannot retake that lead. And this is a lesson that doesn't go just for Aleix. It goes for any driver who gets bogged down in a start, and then he has a restart, and then he's sitting on his car, just replaying that start over and over again. That's the worst thing that you can do. You need to focus on what you can do ahead of you, not what happened in the back. There will be time to recheck that. When you finish the race, you sit down with the engineer, you analyze it all. But not now. Now you need to focus on the rest of a race.
Very true. We've just been told that the race restart is confirmed for 4 p.m. local time. That is in just under 6 minutes, so we will get started again very soon. Coming back to the Alex Pinera situation, Alex, this is what makes motorsport at FIDE level so draconian. It's not like football or tennis or rugby or cricket, where all of the kids do all of their hard work behind closed doors. They never really get into the spotlight until they're ready to walk out onto the grass on the first team or in the major WTA tournaments. In motorsport, they are under the gaze and the scrutiny and the watchful eye of the world from the age of 8 in karting. It is so draconian to put this much pressure on them, but the way they deal with that adversity is so admirable. Going into this restart, I think the pressure is going to be off him a little bit. He's still going to go in second place. He'll have Montero and Fischer behind him, but he'll have a chance to be the attacker rather than the attackee, surely, going up against Coronel.
I think the key here, Jake, is something that we sometimes have talked about. We talked a lot about learning. These drivers need to learn. We want them to learn, and we enjoy seeing them learn and become better drivers. I was recently, well, a few years ago actually, but recently enough, talking to some people from the F1 paddock, and they were telling me, they were giving me a thought that I thought was very apt, which was if feeder series were purely for learning, they would be run on a Tuesday morning with no TVs present. But that's not the way, is it? That means that there is a lot of interest in these categories, and drivers are pretty much expected to perform like professionals, even when they are bringing money to the affair. This is what actually makes drivers so good, because they are not just learning from a theoretical point of view. They're not learning in a safe environment, so to speak, sportingly speaking. They are learning in real fire. This is a test of fire and blood. If they don't make it, they don't get higher up. If they make it, they can continue. They earn the right to continue. So this is very much real professional sport, even though there's a little bit of a difference compared to Formula 1 or WEC or any of those professional categories. But the demands are exactly the same.
So still got plenty of racing to go in this one. As you said, Alex, the safety car was brought out very quickly. The red flag then followed after the crash from Vivek Kathan. Let's speak a little bit about Ty Fischer, though, because he seemed to have kind of missed out on, the issues that were happening, the crash that happened, but also I noticed he had quite a bad start off the line, and a restart here is a really good time rather, to have a bit of a leapfrog while the two in the front are battling to try and take the lead. What can Ty Fisher do from this position?
First of all, I have to say Ty Fisher has impressed me quite a bit in the Spanish Winter Championship. He's one of those drivers that came from really, really far away in terms of geography, and not everyone in the paddock knew about him as well as they probably should have. He's been quick, he's been skilled, surely, and now he has a chance to kind of reset himself a little bit after that start. And as I said before, this is kind of the same mindset that Aleix Piñera should have. Yes, maybe the start wasn't as good as he could have hoped, but there is a chance to recover from that. There is a chance to just leapfrog those drivers. Of course, there's a part that doesn't depend on him, which is he needs those drivers to bother a little bit each other. But if they do, why not? He could do it. We know that he's been an opportunistic driver, and in Formula 4 sometimes you need to be opportunistic.
So we've got ourselves an interesting bit of badinage when we get going again. Now Rocco Coronel from the lead of this restarted race as we get ourselves going again behind the Epic Delara safety car. Coronel will be leading them away from Piñera, Montero, Fischer, Burnett, Bodisch-Leeson with a chance to work his way forward. Casper Schormans, Nasher Tunion, Nathan Ty and Dan Kelleher all in points paying positions. There's going to be an eagerness from the drivers to really charge their way further forward. I think there's going to be a few itchy fingers going into the restart. It's going to be a rolling start, of course, rather than a standing start. So the tyre warm-up procedure now on the rolling lap when they're behind the safety car, that's going to be critical, especially once all of the dust and debris has been taken away from the scene of the accident. I can understand there's going to be a few drivers, Alex, who are going to be quite nervous going into this one.
I think they will have two thoughts in their minds. On the one hand, they'll be thinking, well, you know, there's less race time, we have to make things happen now, because otherwise we'll run out of time. But on the other hand, on the other side, they'll be thinking, well, but just as some other drivers made mistakes and they ended up out of the race, that could happen to me if I make a mistake. I can't just take too much of a risk, can I? And which side wins is what will decide if they actually do take that risk or they don't. I still do expect drivers to get more anxious than not, especially considering that we still lost some bits of time to that first safety car, and when we restart, the race will be restarted, but we will still have that one lap at least until we complete it, until the safety car goes back home, and then we can release the beasts again, so to speak.
Release the beast. I like that, Alex. Alex, you probably got a couple of drivers to go and talk to now and see exactly what happened that brought out that red flag. So we'll leave you to crack on with the rest of the race. Hopefully we'll speak to you soon, and then of course we'll hear from you when you speak to the winner too. Hopefully no rain out there, Alex.
Doesn't look like it, so I think we're safe for the rest of the day.
Excellent. Well, as you can hear, Jake, the cars are getting ready and heading back out on the track. We're going to go racing again.
Indeed we are, so we're going to be 29 cars on the restart rather than 34. So no Pablo Riccobono, Elliot Kaczynski, Andrei Petrovic, Vivek Kanthan or Bolovet. There is Vivek Kanthan's car that took the big hit from first Andrei Petrovic and Pablo Riccobono. I am delighted to say that all drivers are uninjured after what we saw earlier on. So that is very good news indeed, and good to see. It's in very difficult situations, of course, that the drivers get themselves back into starters' orders. But we are now going back to safety car proceedings, and that's going to put Rocco Coronel into the lead, Aleix Piñera into second, from Noah Montero in third, from Jensen Burnett. And then it is Bodisch-Leeson from Casper Schormans, Nasher Tunion and Nathan Ty, with Dan Kelleher looking at the 10th position at the moment.
So safety car going to be pulling away very shortly. As Jake said, it will be a rolling start here, and it'll be Rocco Coronel who's going to get us going. The clock is starting to tick down already. So what can we see? When will racing get going again? Not long indeed. They'll follow the safety car for a little bit, and then they'll be unleashed into the fire of Valencia. So what are we going to see from the restart? Cars are just going to start warming up their tyres now as they head round. If they don't have warm tyres, they run the risk of sliding off the track, and that is not what they want at this part. So at the front then, we've got someone that's inherited pole position in Rocco Coronel. We've got Alex Pinera just behind him, and our winter champion, of course, in Noah Montero just behind. So the safety car will continue to take these cars round, warming up their tyres once again, of course. And it's quite a long lap here in Valencia, so it gives them some time to get the heat that they need in the tyres, of course, to not be able to slide off the track. Just behind is Ty Fisher. Now, can Ty Fisher do better than he did with the original start? He got a bit bogged down, and we have to say, good start from Jensen Burnett, who started 7th and is currently now 5th. Obviously, we've lost a couple of cars out there, but a good chance for Jensen Burnett to do well from there. And then just behind, of course, we've got Boris Lison, who is starting this race from 6th, thanks to the restart. So as they head round again, Casper Schaumann sitting 7th. What can we do from here? 18 minutes left on the clock, and the safety car still out at the moment, thanks to that red flag that we had very briefly from who technically is our championship leader after winning, Vivek Kanthon, who unfortunately got a bit out of shape and had to retire the race, as well as Andrea Petrovic. So safety car is going to be in this lap. We are going to go racing again, and at the front, like I said, it is going to be Rocco Coronel. Let's see what he can do from the front. Is he going to be under pressure from Alex Pinera? We will find out in the next couple of moments. He's going to back up the pack a little bit, and then we're going to see him pull away. And how is his restart going to be? So it looks like he is starting to pull away now. He's keeping them behind. Still no, warming up his tyres just a bit longer. And it looks like he's gone now. So let's see as he come across the start-finish straight. They seem a long way away. Here we go then. We're back racing in Valencia. Safety car is in, and Rocco Coronel is leading the way from Alex Pinera behind. And what can we see going into turn 1? Well, not a lot at the moment. They seem to be tiptoeing their way round a little bit now. And Rocco Coronel still leading the way. Big lock up there from the rear, though, of Rocco Coronel under pressure. But at the moment, holding off Alex Pinera, who started on pole position thanks to the fastest second lap in qualifying this morning. So Noah Monteiro, what can he do from 3rd? Ty Fisher still sitting 4th at the moment. Actually, I would say quite a well-behaved restart here, as we just see there, car number 8, which is a little bit further down, which is Jakub Mikalev, seeing if he could take over Simon Bolbarella. But actually, have to say, it's all pretty chill out there at the moment. Sounds like we're having a few technical issues with Jake. He is back. Hello, Jake.
Yes, indeed. So Rocco Coronel getting a decent restart there from Pinera. I don't think he's going to have too much of a pressure cooker from Pinera, though, because Montero and Fischer are already ramping up the attack on Alex Pinera for 2nd place. God, that got a little bit close for comfort there between Sandro Perez and the number 9 in the mix there, trying to get in touch with Zodi Florescu. That's Jean-Paul Carras. And so as they come across the line once again, all going very well indeed, as the competitors run in close proximity. Coronel ahead of Pinera, Montero, Fischer, Burnett, Legion, and then it is Casper Schaumann from Nasha Tunion, Nathan Ty and Dan Kelleher. One thing I have to say about this new Epic Stradale safety car is that it's able to run at a slightly higher velocity than some of the other safety cars we've used in the past, and that's made the tyres go brilliantly to temperature, as we get a lovely little bit of parallel there between Luna Flusha and Miki Blashkos. I think Bolbarella was trying to get in amongst them as well. Great side-by-side as Felipe Rice finds his moment on Jean-Paul Carras. So they're having a little tuck and play as well. But so far, Rocco Coronel thought he was pulling away a little bit there from Alex Pinera, but now the Technicar is bouncing back into touch.
Brilliant work there from Luna Flusha as she really tried to go racing out there pretty hard. And you have to remember she's battling it out for 13th at the moment. Now we're watching then Montero, seeing what he can do. Can he manage to get round the top two? And I have to say, Jake, they're all behaving pretty well out there at the moment.
Yeah, it's been very interesting to see how they have made it work. It's been an interesting one for the competitors to try and get these tyres dialed in, but that increased velocity, as I mentioned, from the safety car, making quite a big difference. The tyres are a little bit better warmed up now, and that's one of the reasons for bringing this car in, because it can run at a similar, if not equal pace to these F4 cars when at the limit. So it can run to a better top speed velocity under a safe run of the safety car. One thing I have to say as well from that initial incident is that the Halo once again did its job in the initial pile-up that we saw between Kanthan, Petrovic and Ricardo. All three drivers, including all the other two that were ending up out of there, all okay and walking away from the incident, so no major dramas on that front. There is Kasper Schormans under big pressure from Nacho Tunion. Now, of course, the absence of Petrovic means that Tunion is essentially now the lead man in the squad. So he's got to try and ramp up the ante, and we saw a couple of times in the Spanish Winter Championship that the pressure did get to Nacho a little bit, and so that's something that he's going to have to take into account. There's also a bit of a suggestion, I think, that Aleix Pinheiro, that incident with Vivek Kanthan, could be investigated as to who was at fault. Me personally, looking at that, I'd say that was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You can argue, and I'm sure there will be an argument to suggest that, well, Pinheiro hit Kanthan off the road, but I would also say, well, Kanthan took a big risk in that initial incident in trying to keep that car flowing around the outside. So both sides to the story are going to have merit in that debate. Meanwhile, Jensen Burnett gets the fastest lap of the race on this one, and the KCL driver, who moves across from Drivex, of course, after the Spanish Winter Championship, really starting to hunt down the men in front. I'm interested to see as well what kind of legs polish Leeson is going to have, but the tyres are definitely better warmed up than they had been in the Spanish Winter Championship. Part of that is due to the increase in the climate, of course, but part of that is due to the fabulous work of Pedro Vichals in the Lara Stradale safety car from Epic, so that's great work indeed. We've got a couple of trains developing towards the first corner here. That looks like Louis Cochet leading the way from Flusha, Barbarella, Michelev, Perez, Arnaldo and Florescu all in the line. So that's going to be an interesting one in the midfield. But check out Jensen Burnett, the number 15, the orange machine again, Claire, looking to ramp up the attack and maybe shoot for a podium.
Yeah, he's putting pressure, isn't he, on Ty Fisher there. The only thing I would say is that he's just set the fastest lap, but I think that's because he's also under pressure from car number 21 behind Boris Lizon. So it's a bit of a funny one there, because as you can see, just then he's dropped back a little bit actually from Ty Fisher. So going wide there was, I think, Alexia Pinheiro actually, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Pinheiro, so he's over-exerting a little bit on that side of the rotation. The radius not quite coming back to him. So very tricky to see how it works out. Coronel, Pinheiro, Montero, Ty Fisher just starting to get a little bit more out of this phase of the tyres, as it were. But I don't think Coronel has quite got the legs he thought he was going to have here. This car is obviously still raceable and still workable, but I actually think he's going to struggle to maintain this level. Pinheiro and Montero seem to have done a better job of managing the tyres. Big lock-up there, though, from Pinheiro. You can't afford to do that too many times.
Well, you have to remember that Coronel actually had a big lock-up early on the restart, so he's probably maybe flat-spotted part of his tyres. He's pulling away a little bit now on the straight, but as we see, I think the battle heating up here for third place.
Oh, very tricky to see if Montero can actually finish that move on Pinheiro. We're certainly having a look at it, and now Pinheiro is having to go defensive on the inside radius. That pushes Montero to go round the outside. Pinheiro's going to kick out wide over the curb. That's going to put dust on the tyres, and now Montero is running him ragged. Obviously, the traditional karting line is being utilised by Pinheiro to try and hug that inside line and make the car as wide as a Buick, and now it's going to be tricky to see if Montero can now find the opportunity on the inside radius. Pinheiro's making all the right moves in defence, though. The key is to put the car slightly off the racing line, maybe by an inch, and then you basically shut down the offence from behind. You can't go left, you can't go right, and it just makes you that little irritating moth in the corner of the lampshade. You can't find a way to get through on either side, and Montero really having to work the magic here and try and outfox Pinheiro. You've got to sell in the dummy and sell it well in order to trip him up.
I thought Montero had that then, but he's actually just dropped back a little bit now from Aleix Pinheiro in second, so he's just biding his time a little bit. But I think also Aleix Pinheiro has kind of looked and gone, I'm actually under quite a bit of pressure here. I'm going to have to put the hammer down a little bit now, which has also given Rocco at the front a bit of breathing space, because I felt like we were seeing a bit of a train here at one point. So actually the gap between the top two has extended quite a bit.
So now we're going to see if this leading group is going to be able to make an impact on each other. There's going to be a bit of a frustration in the last 9 minutes if no one can make an impact, but Boris Leeson has proven himself already in the pre-season in the Winter Championship to be one of the drivers who will roll his sleeves up and get stuck in. So let's see if the pole is going to have another opportunity. Kasper Schormans is one to watch for if he can make the tyres go a little bit further. But it is fascinating that the dynamic of the climate warming up in just a few weeks since the end of the Spanish Winter Championship, the cold conditions, we saw these cars getting very squirrely out of corners. The cool conditions, the icy air temperatures made it very twitchy, this car, but it's so much smoother. It's a lot more planted to the road now with the track temperatures being higher, and so it's a different driving style that the competitors are having to adopt in this part of the season, and that makes for another in a very intriguing chapter in their development.
Top six now pulling away a little bit more, aren't they? We're starting to see the trains kind of separate a bit more behind Boris Leeson. That we can see, of course, Schorman really trying to keep up with that leading pack, but the top six really starting to make their own race out there. And how soon until we get, say, Jenson Button instead of Jenson Burnett? I haven't said it yet, but every time I go to say it, I'm ready to say Jenson Button. So if we say Jenson Button anywhere through this race, it's because they are very similar. So you're going to have to forgive us. Can you see now the top six really pulling away from that pack?
Yeah, and they're tightening up as well. It's a very easy mistake to make as well, Claire, because the first 8 letters of his name are absolutely identical. So it's not exactly easy. There is the new fastest lap, and it's been put in by this man, Noah Montero, still trying to put Pinheiro on the back foot. 7.5 minutes on the clock still, but Coronel is actually driving a very measured race. You do get 2 different types of race after a red flag incident like that. You get the ability to get the most out of the tyres and then you pull away. But actually Coronel is keeping it very fast here. I've been keeping an eye on his lap times, and it's actually really, really impeccable to look after these tyres and keep it measured. I would say he's probably at 95% at the moment. You get drivers at this phase of their career who are able to extend, but they don't push everything. They leave a little bit in reserve, and that's because you've got to take the tyres to go a little bit further. Don't forget, they don't put a fresh set of tyres on for every race. They're limited to the amount of tyres they can use over the course of a weekend. So when you put the fresh set on, it's tactical. And if Coronel has saved his fresh set of tyres for the last race of the weekend, then he's obviously got to be very meticulous about how much he exerts these remaining sets now. He's got to be a little bit to the limit, but he doesn't want to go too hard, especially if he can put Montero and Pinheiro into lockups. Then he gets the upper hand. He still has a little bit left in the tank, so to speak.
Yeah, like I said, Coronel had a lock-up early on in the race, but definitely not as many as we're seeing from Aleix Pinheiro just behind. And they have to be careful out there by flat spotting these tyres in any sort of way. Lock-ups, you know, they shake out the well-balanced tyre concept that you're given by an engineer. So as soon as you start making small mistakes like that, the whole tyre starts to work completely differently. So Aleix Pinheiro needs to hold on for the next 6 minutes or so to make sure that he continues to have that second place. But what I will say is that he's closed it in by a 10th now to Coronel, but it does keep moving every so often at different parts of the track. Obviously, faster parts of the track means you can close in a little bit quicker to the front, but I would have to say at this point, Rocco Coronel, for the fact that he's inherited this lead, I say inherited because of the crash we had earlier, he's commanding it pretty well. He doesn't feel under pressure. He seems to be really just keeping it under control at the moment, and importantly, keeping the other 30-odd cars behind him.
We've already got some track limits penalties being handed out. Sandro Perez has picked up 5 seconds. So has Alex Chartier, Jordan Moodley and Sebastian Frigolet. We've got a whole handful of drivers on their final warnings as well, including Boris Liesen in P6. So Casper Schormans and Nasha Tunion are going to be ramping up the attack to see if they can put him over the line just a little bit more. It's a whisker over 2.5 seconds now between the top 6. It's getting very tight indeed, and Pineda is only 0.4 of a second away. Quickest of all on that lap, Noah Montero with the fastest lap of the race. So there's still quite a lot of intensity to come. If you've just joined us and wondered why the race isn't over yet, we had a red flag incident that took out Vivek Kanthan and Andrei Petrovic, as well as Pablo Ricabodo and a couple of others. All drivers are safe and sound, but we are just over 4 minutes left in this race. Jake Sanson and Claire Cottingham in the commentary box with Alex Garcia down in the pit lane. And it's going to be very interesting to see if Rocco Coronel, our race leader, the Red Bull Junior from the Netherlands, can hold on in front of Alex Pineda and Noah Montero, who have proven over the last couple of laps that they have still got life in the tyres, they have still got thirst to take on the rookie, and they have still got plenty of potential to go for their first win of the season. We're guaranteed a new winner, of course, Claire, with Vivek Kanthan being gone, but it's very tricky to know with these 3 minutes to go if anyone can take on Rocco Coronel.
Well, if the Winter Series is anything to go by with different winners in different races, then I'm sure we're going to see the same in Spanish F4. And what an exciting race that gives us, doesn't it? An exciting series that gives us when you're not sure who's going to win. These young drivers just trying to make their mark in motorsport, and Spanish F4 is the perfect place to showcase their talent. As you said, we've seen Franco Colapinto come through the ranks and head into Formula One, and that's why they do it, isn't it, at the end of the day? So what can the top three, MP, Motorsport, just watching over nervously there, as you can probably expect, because their lead driver at the moment in Rocco Coronel is currently going to pick up their first win of the series and this season. Got to remember, this is the first of 2 races we've had here, first and second in Valencia. Tomorrow is the 3rd race of the season, but it's the opening rounds, as we're seeing a little bit of a ding-dong going on here.
Yeah, Tunion fancying trying to catch out Casper Schormans, but the Dutchman wasn't born yesterday. You can try that trick if you want, but it's going to take a much more foolish driver to get the best of Casper Schormans on that particular move. He just knows you just pop out into the rearview mirror, and if you can psych out the driver in front, they make the mistake into the braking zone. But Schormans is a very cool customer. He is part of the Richard Mille Talent Academy. He has come through with very little budget, it has to be said, from his karting days. But they saw something particularly special in him at the assessment day, and they've decided to put their weight behind him in the same way that we saw from the incredibly talented man in the foray last year that we saw step out of the Richard Mille Talent Academy as a rookie in similar fashion. The incredibly talented Belgian star who has now come out of the world of Spanish F4 and continue his trajectory by continuing that amazing work that we showed from him in Spanish F4. He has stepped out of that category now, of course, after a decent run last year, and now the talented Belgian Ian Eijkmans has stepped into MP, still in the red colours, I do believe. I think the Richard Mille Talent Academy still supports Eijkmans, but they are continuing to expand, and now they've got Casper Schormans on board. He's got a bit of time to make up from the top 6, but only a minute and a half to do something with it. And the fastest lap of the race, of course, has still come from Noah Montero. On the last lap, of course, it's getting tricky. There's also a final warning, by the way, for track limits for Ty Fisher. So he is right in the mix of that top 6, along with Boris Liesen, both on final warnings. They cannot afford to play with these limits much longer.
Yeah, a minute or so to wait. 2 laps, I would probably say at this point, maybe 2 laps, I would say. I'm never very good at my maths. I always panic immediately whenever I do that. But I'm pretty sure it will be 2 laps off this. 53 seconds plus 1 lap wherever the leader is. So I'm going to stick to that and say that this is the penultimate lap. Are we going to agree on that one?
It sounds about right, because we're about the second sector for the leaders. So yeah, I think we're going to be 2 laps to go, to be fair, as well.
Yeah.
Well, we saw a brief look at Andrei Petrovic there on the pit wall, looking rather fed up and forlorn. I'd much rather look at him looking fed up and forlorn than be in a hospital bed. So good to see that he has walked away from that one. All 5 drivers involved in the earlier incident, by the way, perfectly okay and uninjured, which is very good news indeed, particularly after the heavy hit Pablo Riccoboni took into the side of Petrovic's car with a lot of debris coming towards the halo, but he managed to get away from it. Actually, we could end up with 2 laps, depending on when Rocco Coronel crosses the line. It's going to be tight. 3, 2, 1... No, we are going to get just the last lap to go. That was so tight. That was so tight over the line. I've seen it happen when it's been only about half a second or so in it. But that's a relief for Rocco Coronel because that's 1 less lap he has to deal with this battle.
And a relief for all of my maths teachers all over the world. For once I managed to do maths right. Rocco Coronel then looking like he's going to take the first win of the second race for him. First win of the season as well in 2026. We're going to see this championship start to really heat up soon as well because we've only got 7 rounds to go, which have 3 races. So, you know, there's always got points to play for in this championship. And you have to say, Alex Pinheira, coming away from these 2 races that we've had, is going to be elated with his start to the championship. It's not a win, and we haven't seen the win, and he did have a chance from pole position in this race to take the win, but consistency is so key in a championship like this.
And he's certainly delivered on the potential and promise that we kind of got a hint of in the Spanish Winter Championship. Noah Montero will be probably a little bit frustrated, but calmly satisfied. Top 5s all the way are how you win championships at this level. You stay out of the drama, you stay out of the melee, and you bring it home. Fisher and Burnett looking for points. Legion looks like he could get there as well, provided he keeps this final lap clean. But the man who was so keen to get a victory on the board in the Spanish Winter Championship, so many misses, so many near chances, and finally, in the second race of the main season, championship contender he certainly will be. The Red Bull Junior, Rocco Coronel, takes a rookie overall victory here at Valencia after all the pressure raining down on him from the opponents. That is a big victory for MP Motorsport and for Rocco Coronel. They fight back in the best possible terms. Griffin Core got the first race of the year. MP are right back in it. Fabulous stuff. A brilliant, brilliant result for Rocco Coronel. And there is going to be a very happy family when he gets back. He will go and no doubt get the warmth and fantastic support from Pauline Schwartz, his mother, and Tom Coronel, his father. And I wonder if Uncle Tim is in town as well. Such a wealth of knowledge and experience from the Coronel family. They've given this boy an amazing opportunity. And what about this man, Alex Pinheira? Great to see him unlock his potential. A win is not that far away now.
Yeah, great to see for MP Motorsport as well, doing it with the Dutch driver for the Dutch team, as well as lots of these drivers have been out throughout the whole of the winter as well, not only doing the winter testing, but they are in simulators. They are giving away so many of their hours to put into the time to get these wins. And for Rocco, you know, Coronel, he will be absolutely elated with the hard work that he's put in. Pre-season, winter season, and all sorts. And, you know, backed by Red Bull is always a way to get your name out there, but for this one, you know, he could have easily, after that lockup early on in the restart, after the restart, let it all go away, but he didn't. He regained his composure and he got it going.
Fabulous start to the season then. 2 top 3 finishes for Rocco Coronel, and that puts him into the championship lead, of course, with the second place from race 1 and the victory in race 2. Fewer points on offer, of course, for race 2, but it certainly won't change the outcome. And it's certainly a great day at the office for MP Motorsport and the young pretender to the crown, Rocco Coronel. Don't forget, this is his first season in single-seaters. It's not his first season in cars. He was in the Ginetta Juniors last season under the watchful eye of the Red Bull Junior program. But what an impression and what an impact is already being made by the new Red Bull Flying Dutchman. He will get out of the car. And this has been a long time coming, it seems, already for Rocco Coronel. That's the response. Straight to the team. He points to the boys. What a fantastic start to the year for the MP squad. There's quite a few of them to run down there and greet him. But first and foremost, it is, of course, Uncle Tim, I believe, and Tom himself that are there. They wouldn't miss this for all the tea in India and China put together. What a brilliant opening weekend for Rocco Coronel, P1 in the championship.
So, Jake, there's some breaking news as well come from our resident pit lane reporter, Alex Garcia, as well. Rocco has actually won race 1 as well after a time penalty for Vivek Kanthan. Could his weekend get worse, any worse than crashing out in the second race? Well, yes, it can. He's just had his first win of the season taken away as well. Vivek Kanthan has a time penalty after race 1. So this is potentially, or is, as it stands, provisionally, his second win of the championship. So that, you can say, makes him the championship leader.
He was already looking at it, so to get a double trouble victory after all of that, what a great start for Rocco Coronel. And certainly the Red Bull Junior program always keen to look at who the next big contender is. There are some very meaty talents in the Red Bull Junior program at present, all the way through the line. Obviously here we have Rocco Coronel in Euro Cup 3. We have the great talented Thai Enzo Tarvanichkul, the former junior karting world champion. But there's some big opportunities to come for Coronel. Pineda, again, who just looks as if he's just got out of the car after a test session. He certainly doesn't look like he's come home in second place for his best ever result. And Luna Flusha seems happy. 2 right as well. She fought her way valiantly to P12. She's getting better and better all the time. And no doubt all of the eyes will be on her to continue her progress. Of course, she finished second in her second ever race, which was a reverse grid race early in the season. But she's not happy with 12th position. She will want more. And I've got a feeling that going into qualifying tomorrow, she'll have the chance to do it. There's Noah Montero. Always pragmatic in defeat. Always a very good sporting driver. So let's head down then to hear from the race 2 winner. And of course, now we know the race 1 winner as well after Kanthan's penalty. What an opportunity for the Dutchman, Rocco Coronel. He's with our colleague, Alex Garcia.
Race 2 winner, Rocco Coronel. And I have to say, this might just be the first time I talked to a driver who kind of takes 2 wins in 1 after the penalty for Vivek Kanthan in race 1. So finally that win, it was in race 1, but you said, come on, we have to make it on track, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the other got a penalty last race. For good for the points, but I wanted to do myself. So I had a good start, so I went immediately to the inside. Then it was a red flag, so I need to manage for the safety car restart. I managed quite well, immediately quite a good gap. Yeah, started managing the tires. The guys behind me were quite fast. I think they had the right side new and I had just a fresh tire. I think they made quite a big difference, and I think I could have been a bit faster, but yeah. It wasn't there. I think overall it's quite a good race. I finished P1 and yeah, I did my best.
We know, of course, that Valencia is not a track where it's easy to overtake. So it is very important not just to get that good start, as you said, but also to get that restart the best you can. How do you manage when you're sitting in the car, you don't know exactly when the race is going to be restarted, and you're just sitting there doing nothing? Does that stress you out?
No, it doesn't stress me out. I just keep focused and wait until the safety car lights are out, and yeah, just manage in the last corner when to go. Yeah, just manage on my own where to go, and yeah, focus on the guy behind me where he's looking at, and then just go on the perfect moment.
Now we have 2 out of 2. Is 3 out of 3 gold for tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow.
Congratulations, Rocco. Enjoy it, and time to enjoy the podium.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, fascinating scenes then as Rocco Coronel unlocks victory number 2, it turns out, as Vivek Kanthan has actually been given a penalty post-race 1. We've just heard about it. We'll talk about that in a moment. Rocco Coronel taking the win from Alish Pineda, Noah Montero in P3 from Ty Fisher and Jensen Burnett, Boris Leeson, Gasper Schulmans, Nasha Tunion, Nathan Ty, and Daniel Kelleher, the former IAMA Euro Series Cadet champion in P10. Mickey Blascos and Luna Flusha, another former IAMA Euro Series Cadet champion. 12th, Jacob Mikilev from Fausto Bernardo, Simon Balbarera, Zoe Florescu, very encouraging race from her. 16th, Felipe Rice, Louis Cochet, and Jean-Paul Cadas, rounding out the top 20, Samorus, the Monegasque, and then it is Max Redek from Marianito. Retirements, well, there were plenty of them. Alphonse Mittenen joining Vivek Kanthan, Andrei Petrovic, Elliot Kaczynski, Boluet, and Pablo Ricabono at the end of a very frenetic race. We said race 2 was going to be more dramatic. We had no idea it was going to be as intense as it turned out to be. 5 seconds added to the race time though for Vivek Kanthan, and it is judged that his car was on the grass to the left of the main straight shortly after the race starts. So that's why he was given his 5-second time penalty. Looks like Rocco Coronel is already doing media duties before he's even got to the podium. Talk about a workaholic.
Lovely to see, though. I wasn't sure, though, if he was being told that news for the first time when Alex told him. He didn't seem that surprised that he knew that he'd picked up his second win of the season. But I feel like if that was me, though I have to say the Dutch are always very cool. So even if he did know, that was probably his face of surprise. So it's all on his shoulders now, though, isn't it, Jake, in this sort of way? He's now leading the championship. He's got 2 wins under his belt. And from here, we're going to see whether he grabs this with 2 hands in the qualifying session tomorrow morning, because we've got another qualifying session ahead of the 3rd race tomorrow. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen today, make sure you join us for the 3rd race of the first round in Valencia. Are we going to see that this is going to give him even more of a boost heading into it? And in that note, how much confidence is Vivek Kanthan going to have lost from losing a win and having that crash?
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of factors coming into this one. There's the moment. Rocco Coronel clinched what we now know is his 2nd win of the season, not his 1st. And so it's 2 out of 2 for the Dutchman in the Red Bull Junior camp and in the MP Motorsport camp. You make a good point, Claire. What I think is going to be fascinating going into qualifying tomorrow is now the onus kind of switches on the mechanics. They've got to set the car up right for that time session so that the drivers go into it feeling comfortable, feeling relaxed. And that's going to be significantly harder at Griffincourt than it is at MP. Clearly, Rocco is in the best form of his life right now. You can see that the cars are already getting up to speed on the support championships out on the course. There is Thiago Monteiro with the silver hair. I have to say silver because it's always sound cooler than grey. But Thiago Monteiro there with the Skywalker team. They are so happy that Noah Monteiro has unlocked his first podium. Luna Flusha there, getting ready to get herself the ladies' prize. But Rocco Coronel will be at the top of both podiums, the rookie podium and the overall race podium. He's going to run out of space in his trophy case before the end of the weekend, the way things are currently going. But yeah, he's going to go into tomorrow with a lot of confidence, that is for sure, Claire, and it certainly has a big opportunity for him. Right, Alex Garcia, you've obviously been there and given us all of the meat and juicy bones of the race weekend. Fabulous performance for Rocco Coronel. Could he even make it a hat-trick tomorrow, perhaps, buddy?
We know, Jake, that when it comes to Valencia, there is a tendency to make 3 out of 3s in the past, so he could very well do it, and the best part of it is that this one technically was the most complex of the 3 races to win. If he has a good qualifying tomorrow, he'll be starting from a good position, and that'll be enough to be really a true candidate for that 3rd win. Not a perfect weekend, because he would have had to get those pole positions to get a perfect score, but a 3 out of 3 is definitely something that he would take if he can. I did like, when I asked him, I put him a little bit on the spot there, and I said, Rocco, do we aim for a 3 out of 3 tomorrow? And he said, yes, well, we'll see tomorrow. He doesn't want to make it too obvious that he's going to go for it, but I can tell you he's going to go for it.
Of course he is. You're absolutely right. And of course you alluded to the hat-trick last year in Valencia for Juan Cota, who did a fantastic job last year before stepping up. Alex, thank you so much. We'll get back into the action with you same time tomorrow. Hasta mañana.
See you tomorrow, guys.
So we're going to close our coverage of race 2 with a podium ceremony, and of course a big one for the MP Motorsport boys, big one for Technicar too as well. It's great to see them not just getting 1 podium, Claire, but now getting 2. It's looking really positive for this team moving forward.
Yeah, the boys and girls have worked hard, haven't they, in the garages, in the engineer room and all this, like we've spoken about so much. Data, so important to these teams, and at this point, that's when it all comes together. And the podium getting underway, sort of a bit of a muted look from Noah there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to play the percentages game at the moment, just banging the podiums. He'll be ready to unlock a victory tomorrow if he gets a chance. But for Rocco Coronel, it's the famous Netherlands national anthem that we've all become so familiar with. It's become part of the DNA of the decade in motorsport, hasn't it? A Red Bull driver on the top step of the podium with the Dutch national anthem ringing out over the airways. Who'd have thought we'd get even more? But I think there could be a lot of pressure on Rocco Coronel to deliver 3 out of 3 tomorrow, Claire. MP are happy for now. Will they still be happy 24 hours from now?
Yeah, there is pressure now under MP Motorsport, isn't there? But we have to say it's only the second round. There is such a long season to go. And these drivers and the teams, specifically MP Motorsport, they're very experienced. So they'll know what to expect going into a racing championship like this. But we're looking forward to tomorrow, because I think that's going to be an absolute thrilling race.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be a bit of a humdinger of a battle. We'll give Rocco Coronel his plaudits on the podium as the boys here in Valencia will join the top spot on the rostrum, and no doubt they will get busy with the fizzy as ever. Well, today has definitely been a good one for Rocco Coronel and MP Motorsport, and for all the Dutch fans watching, well, your boy has definitely delivered. You waited in the Spanish Winter Championship patiently. Well, in the first round of the F4 Spanish Championship 2026, he has more than delivered. And we're going to get up to racing action again tomorrow to see if he can genuinely make it a first hat-trick in Valencia since Juan Cota mid-season last year. From me, Jake Sanson, from Claire Cottingham, from our colleague Alex Garcia and the whole team at the Killite, thank you so much for watching and tuning in to the first day of the action in the 2026 F4 Spanish Championship. There's more where that came from. We'll be back for more of the same tomorrow when, once again, the Circuit Ricardo Tormo will ring out to the F4 Spanish Championship. Bye for now.
Vamos rápidamente con la categoría de los rookies.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, can't relax. Original, I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they never ever mind and they beeswax. I don't ever cap, but I'm wearing like 3 hats. Never been a rat, but I know where the cheese at. You'll never get a trophy cause they all here where we at. You better believe that. When it's all said and done, I'll still be here standing. Never took a loss and it ain't something that I'm planning. I dare you to say something, my focus is A1. Every dog has his day, it's been mine since day one. This is real grinding, I'm still climbing. While you still trying, I'm still shining. It's real blinding, and I'm getting hotter too. Talking top 2, I'm not a 2. You let the pressure bother you when I do what I gotta do. Let's go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. They ain't coming close to me. Flow is on atomic, I'm starting fires through poetry. The hardest out, staying loyal, no falling out. And if you step into the court, be ready, we balling out. Yeah, the coldest of teens, they know what we bring, don't try us. They know in between, we go for these dreams in silence. Hard work, don't mistake it for magic. We been shooting in the gym, this is target and practice. Yeah. And I'm just getting started, getting feet wet. It's all in repetition, ain't a secret. All facts, all black dress code. Pay me my respect, collecting every debt.